takes place. So here we are in a new financial year. Every day we're collecting money. I think it's probably millions a day, or close to that anyway, and there's many millions over every week that we don't have access to. So that's a pretty significant problem. In the end of the year, it turned out, I believe, $53 million in change of intellectual property applicant community money. That's money that you and your clients are paying in, went away. You don't have it available.
Where does it go?
Well, I'm not exactly sure where it goes. I think it goes into somewhere into the great United States government.
It actually goes into a reserve fund, but a fund that never gets tapped is actually a challenge. Let me ask you the harder version of this question. I mean, you use the D word, I use it now, then diversion. There are many ways that have been discussed to permanently end it. Does the administration support ending it permanently? And if so, what way would they support it?
Well, you've got a president's budget, our president's budget for 2011, which is excellent. You've got our president's budget, which is approved by the Office of Management and Budget for 2012, which is excellent, and would indeed result in major increases in funding to the USPTO. And so that's where we stand now. We continue to work with and provide technical assistance to both houses of Congress to try and help them come up with a solution that frankly recognizes something that I've come to recognize as Executive Director of Dickinson. I'm sure you know this well from running the agency, that it's actually good that we have overseers, our oversight committees, both the House and the Senate, our appropriations committees on the financial side. They provide valuable advice. They ensure that that what's going on at this agency, no matter who's running it or what point in time, is all being handled very appropriately. And we should all champion that. So we're trying to work with them to come up with a solution that recognizes that they have an incredibly important oversight role, while at the same time stopping the process of moving money into tens or hundreds of millions of dollars out of the USPTO, and frankly recognizing that we've got a major unfunded mandate at the agency, because all those 700,000 plus applications that you folks filed are unfunded. If you don't know this, right, the money that you paid to file those applications has been spent already, and there's no money anywhere for us to process those. So at some point, somebody is going to need to provide massive funding to this agency as we catch up.
Well, one of the key places where that funding gets applied, and various directors have made comments about whether or not they can hire their way out of the backlog or hire their way out of the issues, they get enough resources. But one of the key places we put it is towards hiring. And one of the questions we got is, what are your current hiring plans for the PTO, particularly with regard to examiners, and how important do you feel these plans are to reduce the backlog?
Yeah, great question. So, first of all, our current plans are summarized in the following statement: we want you to come and work for the USPTO.
Uncle Sam wants you. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So at the end of the day, when you look at all of the efficiencies that we're working on in IT and the process efficiencies, and we've made a lot of progress. I mean, you can see when the actions per disposal goes from nearly 3 to 2.4, that's a 20% plus efficiency gain. We're doing really well on that. But at the end of the day, when you run our models, which by the way are available on the internet, so you can go run them yourselves, you find that you need a lot more people in order to keep up with the trajectory of the agency. By the way, application filings were up over 4% in 2010, and that was another major headwind that we had to overcome. We lost examiners, we had filing rates up, we gave more time, and we still managed to make some progress against the backlog. So we've got a lot of challenges in that regard.
Okay, let me talk about initiatives, new initiatives in particular.
Can I just finish and say,
absolutely.
You asked about hiring.
Oh, yeah.
We're trying to hire 1,000 new examiners this year, and I've asked Commissioner Stoll and Deputy Commissioner Focarino to go out and hire more than that number if they can. So we are really trying to hire very aggressively. We're hiring experienced people, practitioners who have years of experience as patent attorneys.
So you weren't kidding when you said that?
I really am not kidding, yeah. And we've been very successful at hiring several hundred of those. We're trying to hire newly minted patent attorneys, fresh out of law school. We are hiring a nice slate, including people who are technical experts out of college who may not have patent experience. We want to hire across the board. We want to have a very balanced demographic at our agency. And we are really looking for qualified people. So if if you're interested or you have people you know from your law schools or firms or whatever, or companies, send them in.
Let me turn to these initiatives too, because you keep us busy, man. I'm going to tell you, our committees that are out there, it's all to respond just to the notices takes a lot of work on our part. But we're, in large part, we're happy to see them. Some of them have been controversial, some not. Let me just start with a number of them: green tech, bop and drop, now the humanitarian. All these are methods of accelerating examination. You said it's for customer needs. You said it's for to give options for folks. Yet under 2% of applications are actually have an acceleration request. We must have 12 different ways to accelerate. Now the humanitarian one. Want to comment on any of that? What's that all about?
Yeah, well, in a world in which you're working in a kind of a fix-sum environment, right, where we're trying to hire people, as I mentioned, but we've got a lot of work to do on that. We're trying to also provide options for the applicant community to be able to self-select the most important work. It's like what I call, FedEx meets the U.S. government. We've got to be able to recognize that not every package can be delivered in 3 or 4 or 5 days. Some really need to get there overnight, and it's the same thing with patent applications. So even while we realize that we can't move every application as fast as we want to, we're trying to provide the ability to move those applications that are the most important to you, the applicant community, to provide you ways to move them through the agency quickly.
Okay. That sort of segues to probably your biggest initiative in some ways, which is the 3-track plan. Acceleration is part of that. Regular exams is part of that. The one that's probably the most, there are 2 aspects that are pretty controversial, and AIPLA has taken a position on both. And one is, you call it deferred examination. Let's call it deferred examination for 30 months. Traditionally, we oppose deferred examination. Is that really going to help the backlog? And will we get things like a publication? Will we get some intervening rights addressed? Will we get, you've compared it to PCT. PCT, you get a search. Will we get a search?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And so the answer is, think across the board, yes, yes, and yes. So the track 3, which is not to be confused with the third rail, right, is about providing the ability for those applicants who want to slow down to actually slow down the applications. I think that history shows us, in comparisons to other systems that have and put in place delay or deferred mechanism, shows that there will be a dropout rate, and that will be a good thing for the applicant community and for the agency, because it will enable you to not invest your resources in work that becomes unimportant for whatever reason, and us to not invest our resources. So I think it's a good thing.
All right.
Will we provide, so we've taken a lot of input from the IP community. AIPLA provided tremendous input, other IP associations, many companies and law firms, and our valued partners overseas, many of whom are in the room today. We have taken all of that input on board, extensively reviewed, and my PTO colleagues can back me up and confirm on this. I mean, literally over the weekends, we're exchanging email after email after email. Did you see those comments? Did you see those comments? What are we going to do about this? So we're working on the new version of 3-track, which will include many changes to track 3.
Okay.
And you can expect to see issues like the need for to enable a third party to come in and take a track 3 application and have it examined immediately. You can expect to see that issue addressed. You can expect to see intervening rights issues addressed. Right? We're going to provide ways to ensure that track 3 does not become a vehicle to create submarine patents.
Okay. I'm going to cut you off, but I'm getting time things down here too, so I want to move a little bit along. But one other piece of that, even more controversial, we sometimes call it the share process, but it's the process by which you propose that foreign applicants, where they're second filed in the United States, you won't take that case up at all until the foreign application gets through, I guess, a first action. The applicant supplies that action to the United States with comment on it. Is that still part of the active proposal?
Yeah, so this is a great one. This is one of those examples of something that is a rare instance in the world of Washington where there is virtually unanimity on the part of the IP community. I swear, I mean, the team did a great job of also taking all the comments and boiling them down to a long spreadsheet. And as you go through that, you see there's a lot of comments on a lot of these proposals. But one of them where every single comment was at least opposed, if not vehemently opposed, adamantly opposed, right, was that one. So we got it.
I've never